name is Chaeruka. I'm a lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe, Department of Architecture and Real Estate, specializing in environmental design and planning law.
Could you kindly provide us with a summary of the chapter that you developed and your interest around development-induced displacements?
The chapter I wrote on concerns displacement of people due to urban center expansion or creation of new centers. And I carried out that development research in Mazowe. My interest in displacement comes from the fact that as we plan for urban center growth, in most cases we are taking over land which has got people who are staying on it, and we have to move them so that the place can then be replanted and then people are resettled on those areas. So the other issue is I'm also interested in it because it has raised compensation issues and it has also raised issues of heritage.
And across Zimbabwe, we have many cases of urban or peri-urban areas sprawling into rural areas. What are the key challenges from urban planning perspective and in terms of the transformation from rural to urban?
The key challenges that are faced with the urban expansion into rural areas lead to people being displaced, and it brings up the issue of if they are moved, where do they go to, and if they are to be moved, how much should they be compensated in terms of what they developed in the area where they were staying. And then it brings up also the issue of how are they going to be integrated either at that particular place where they are or where they are going to be moved to. That brings up a challenge. The other challenge is that of social infrastructure. If they are moved, will they be able to get easily to health centers or to schools? Or if they stay and the settlement expands, is there adequate health service or schools at the very same place where they are? Then the other challenge also is about management. If they move from one place to another, in terms of management, how are they going to be, in terms of being given services, how are they going to be regulated? And if the area they've gone to is now a different administration, how are they going to be registered and recognized in that area? And also, how are the people in that area where they are going to accept them and be part and parcel of that new community? These are the challenges that happen. And also the other challenge is that land is becoming less and less available. And so it becomes more and more difficult to find land where to move people to when the urban area expands. There are a number of ways these people can be compensated. One of them is that if they are being displaced, they are given adequate compensation which will enable them to redevelop where they go. Then the other way that they can benefit is whereby that place where that place which is being taken and is turned into urban area, these people should actually get stands there also, whereby they are allocated stands by the council and they become part and parcel of the community, which is now the expanded urban settlement. Then the other way of benefiting is where they can also get, say, market stalls, if some of them were into trade, and then they use those market stalls to continue selling things, and also then in terms of livelihoods manage their lives. So the issue of benefiting from the settlement which is being created or to where they go should be well planned before the movement happens. Yes, there are a number of areas where win-win situations have come up. One good example is Chaeruka in Mazowe district, where the construction of a dam displaced a good number of people. Then what happened is government brought in people to replant the area. So they were given dry land, pieces of land for their homesteads. And then they were also allocated roughly 1 acre each for irrigation. So that was a win-win situation. Beyond that, government also helped in digging out the graves which were to be covered by the dam and reburying the people. Yes, of course, there were some areas where the graves may have then gone underwater, but generally most of the graves were dug up and people reburied. Then we have situations in Gambiza, in Chundura, in Gweru district, whereby the one of the elders who had a rural land at the area designated business center was to lose the field, and so he was refusing to give away land. So in the end there was negotiation that he will be given 3 or 4 stands, and he will then give away also about 3 or 4 stands. Then those 3 or 4 stands he will remain with, they will be registered in his name, and he will pay leases for them. And if he was to decide to sell that to someone else, it will be between him and the person buying. So that was another win-win situation. Then we have in Goromonzi a situation whereby there was a farmer who wanted to put up a dam so that he can irrigate his field. And yet further down that dam, and around that dam, it was a communal land. So what the council did was to say the farmer should negotiate with the people who were to have part of their land flooded, and then the agri-tex people replant a village, and then 5% of the water from the dam was supposed to be used by those people who were displaced and resettled.
You mentioned something on cultural heritage. What needs to be considered to ensure protection of cultural heritage sites and sacred places?
There is a need to look closely at the issue of heritage sites and areas which are more like spiritual sites, so as to respect the people of the area. One example is the issue of graves. Although people may say these people are now dead and they are buried, but it is of great significance to those who are living, since these are their forefathers or foremothers, and they would really want to protect those graves. So it's one area whereby if the graves are to be protected, then it should be worked out. And if they are to be dug out and they are moved, then that should be properly planned. Then the other part of tangible heritage is where we have caves that are sacred, where we have mountains that are sacred, forests that are sacred. And in this area of Mazowe, where I carried out my study, you have a forest in the Mazowe Valley, you have caves also in the Mazowe Valley, and just next to it is your Chinamora and the caves, as well as the dome, which are sacred. So the issue here is, since the Mazowe is significant in the context of the spirit medium of Mbuya Nehanda, those forests and caves should not be disturbed. And even the council and even businessmen in the area, they were agreeing that actually the heritage would be of great importance in terms of tourism. On the devolution issue, districts have got the capacity and permitted by the constitution and the acts covering rural district areas to prepare development plans. And in preparing development plans, which is what they are doing at a local level, they can include if you are talking of protecting the graves, or you are talking of protecting the caves, then that should be part and parcel of the development plan. Then at the provincial level, they also produce development plans. And the development plans have got schedules of projects that are to be implemented in an area, which means it is very possible that the district as well as the province, they are aware that people from this area, which is a small town, may be growing and expanding, or people from this area, it may be an irrigation being put up, are to be moved. And if this devolution is really working, then they should plan and budget for them, whereby they've money put aside to compensate those who are to be moved, or those who may have their livelihoods disturbed and are to be enhanced. And also even then to set aside money to plan for, say, shopping centers, for the business centers, for the schools or clinics, which may be needed in the given area. And the provinces, under devolution, they can actually come up with such drafts for purposes of helping those who have been displaced by development.